We are almost to the last book of A Starless Clan, and Frostpaw still needs to choose a new leader for RiverClan. She knows how to choose them, according to the last book, but she hasn't really had an actual thought about who to choose since getting back, mostly because nobody's going to listen to her right now. The books, likewise, haven't really given us a single drop of foreshadowing as to who the actual leader is supposed to be. Any candidate that makes sense has been taken and disposed of by the narrative. That said, it might be fun to do a little bit of a who will be chosen as leader and deputy video for them, not in the same vein as my last one, but as it stands, there are 20 non-Splashtail cats who are alive and have allegiance to RiverClan, not counting little newborn babies, so this will be a lot easier than the ThunderClan one. My first little category is certainly not. This includes Greypaw, Mistpaw, Havenpelt, Sneezecloud, Conefoot, and Mosspelt. Greypaw and Mistpaw obviously are just little guys. There isn't a world where Frostpaw comes back and says, "My sister, actually." It's just a silly idea. Likewise, Mosspelt is ancient. She was the nurse for dead Silverstream's kittens in RiverClan. She's not going to become a 9,000-year-old leader right after their last one passed away. The other three, Havenpelt, Sneezecloud, and Conefoot, just seem too aligned with Splashtail to ever be considered. Conefoot especially, but a pretty big deal has been made lately about Havenpelt and Sneezecloud being his parents, especially with them having another litter. While Fognose and a couple other cats in the clan are probably down here with them too, I'm gonna push her up to the next category, which is, this cat has done basically nothing. Sorry, so I can't see it. Fognose, Nightsky, Minnowtail, Brackenpelt, Breezeheart, Mallownose, Lizardtail, they just haven't been relevant at all. While I can see any one of them being appointed deputy through some sort of wacky random selection, it's not happening as far as them becoming leader goes. Then there's cats that the narrative of the last few books has basically disqualified completely. Obviously, Hairlight, who I didn't even tally up, seemed like he was going to at least end up deputy at the end of this, but he's been super murdered. Icewing and Duskfur both acted as senior warrior regents for RiverClan and both stepped down. Likewise, Owlnose was Frostpaw's bad replacement leader pick, and the narrative did backflips to disqualify him from the position. After Splashtail started getting worse, Icewing and Duskfur also left RiverClan with Mothwing to go, live in some pocket of the forest somewhere. Much like Lionblaze becoming deputy and then being really, really bad at it, these guys having been temporary leaders of RiverClan but stepping down pretty much entirely disqualifies them narratively. Although they want us to believe that these are the most reasonable cats that RiverClan has, they just can't become leader because they've already stopped being leader. So this leaves us with Gorseclaw, who's kind of been around, Shimmerpelt, who's kind of been around, and Mothwing. And there's almost no way it's Gorseclaw. Even though he's done more than a lot of the nobodies in the second category, he's seemingly very much on Splashtail's side. Likewise, Shimmerpelt, while being a pretty active participant in RiverClan in the first couple books, has barely existed after. She was also grouped up with cats like Duskfur for being an older senior warrior, but she didn't leave with them, so she doesn't really seem like she's as reasonable. And then that leaves us with just Mothwing. She is our only viable option. Well, the only viable option that isn't Frostpaw herself, and is in RiverClan. Most people seem divided between these two ideas. There's Mothstar is happening, and Froststar is happening, and I'm pretty firmly on the Mothstar is happening side. Frostpaw appointing herself to be leader of RiverClan in particular is something that I think people are assuming based on very low opinions of the writing team. And I do think this is an underestimation of their abilities. I don't think that they would do something like this without foreshadowing it. No matter what option we go with, it's going to be a twist of some sort, but the choices are a twist that makes some level of sense and a twist that goes against all of the characterization in this arc. Not only is Frostpaw not exactly a born leader, as someone who very much struggles to get anyone to listen to her ever, but she also just had 4-ish books all about discovering herself as a medicine cat, and I do not see that being thrown away. Froststar is a fun idea, but it's also a really bad idea. They had every opportunity a few books back to set her up as anything but a medicine cat apprentice. This ended in her being reinforced as a medicine cat apprentice, even if it wasn't her original destiny or intention or whatever. She was training as a warrior apprentice for a period of time, and she did like being a warrior apprentice, even though it might have just been because of her crush on Splashtail. But she was pulled back into a medicine cat's life by StarClan themselves as if she was their only option. After she's able to kindle a relationship with StarClan and sent back to the park to read their copy of Riverstar's Home, she says, "I have to heal my clan." She knew everything she needed to choose a new leader. It was time to go home. I feel pretty strongly that this disqualifies it as being her. She doesn't seem worried about who her choice will be, and her struggles to get RiverClan cats to take her seriously nearly immediately after don't make me hopeful for the idea that she was going to walk into RiverClan and, on nobody's authority in particular, declare herself king much in the same way Splashtail has. Obviously, anything can happen in these books, but it's not logical from any angle for this to be where the story is leading to. If this happened, it would be a bizarre twist. It's not in line with basically anything they've presented over the last few years. They shot down the idea of even Bristlefrost being deputy, and Frostpaw seems like a way bigger jump than that. I know it's not the Warrior Cat's way, but I feel like I need to factor in logic and consistency. The leader Frostpaw needs to find is someone who's going to restore Riverstar's version of RiverClan. She has a small conversation with Nightheart about it, where she says, "Isn't it more important for cats to be kind and support others than argue over which prey belongs to which clan? Wouldn't the lake be a better place if we helped each other rather than competed with each other?" "RiverClan used to live that way," Frostpaw told him. "In Riverstar's day, RiverClan cats used to meditate every day. It helped them understand that there was more to life than hunting and fighting. They only fought when there was no other option, and they welcomed outsiders. They'd take in any cat who wanted to join. I want RiverClan to be like that, to be something new, something different, something better. That's why choosing the right leader is so important." And afterwards, Nightheart asks, "So you want a leader who believes in kindness rather than competition?" He mewed. "Do you have a cat in mind?" "I know who shouldn't be leader," she told him. And okay, I see how people might look at this and go, okay, the only person who would allow for this is Frostpaw. And technically, as the only person who went here and learned Riverstar's vision, she could be, but Mothwing also qualifies. She is a cat who would agree with that worldview on multiple points. Ignore for a moment the Mothwing that was mean to Shadowsight. She is dead now, just like the Sparkpelt that was mean to Nightheart. Mothwing is a cat who was born outside of the clans and was taken in by RiverClan. Mothwing is a cat who, while she does acknowledge StarClan, she also feels distrustful of them. We could easily see her as someone who's willing to try out something that's outside of tradition. She's also been a refugee in other camps before, and she's moral enough to want to leave RiverClan camp once Splashtail starts trashing it. She's not someone they seem to hint at, but she is someone who actually fits the profile. Not to mention, Mothwing is also a very popular character, and a very old character, not in the sense that she's an elder, but in the sense that she's a nostalgia pick from Arc 2. And if you gaze over our current leadership, we've gotten quite a bit of that going on already. Obviously, both Bramblestar and Scrollstar count here, but over in RiverClan, Crowfeather is the deputy. Likewise, while it's not the same, Tigerheart is at the very least Tawnypelt's son. SkyClan can't exactly have a Generation 2 nostalgia pick, as Firestar's Quest came out in Power of 3, but I think the team is seeing the Gen 2 cats as being, just old enough and just young enough for these positions. Plus, and I'm saying it again, Mothwing is very popular, and I'm pretty sure they know that. Here's another logic point. The only dead StarClan cats Frostpaw knew in life are her dad, Misty Star, Reedwhisker, and Hairlight. You could argue Hairlight's death is set up for her to get a life from him, and sure, I'll give you that possibility, but who's the other half of this to her? Riverstar would be there, and what? 4 random guys, Crooked Star, Leopard Star, and Brambleberry? It feels a bit unnatural. Whether or not it's on page, Frostpaw has to be there for the leader ceremony, probably. No matter who gets picked, as if she's a medicine cat, she has to attend. Meanwhile, Mothwing has her choice of basically the whole pantheon. Her brother Tadpole, there's Leafpool, everyone Frostpaw had, and probably her mom, even though we don't know the current state of Sasha. But nobody would be there to give Frostpaw the slightly sexistly mandatory mother's love life, and someone could be there to give it to Mothwing. The list of cats that Mothwing actually knew is just longer and includes cats the team seems to like, such as Leopardstar and Feathertail, and on top of this gives them an actually fun opportunity to write how a cat with a bad relationship with StarClan reacts to actually seeing them. Oh, and Willowshine. Willowshine would be a pretty big deal here. If all I knew was I had to choose between writing up a ceremony for Frostpaw and one for Mothwing, one of those stands out as being a much stronger opportunity. On the subject of the deputy, who knows, really, genuinely. I'd imagine the most likely situation here is that it would be Icewing or Duskfur and eventually replaced by a younger cat in an arc or two. But much more likely Icewing. Icewing can't be leader, but for any of these cats to be deputy seems equally likely, especially if by some sort of planetary alignment glitch the writers decided that Frostpaw saying only I can lead this clan is something any of these characters would properly accept. She'd have to pick someone older to lead with her, probably. If Frostpaw became leader, they likewise wouldn't have a medicine cat who can talk to StarClan at all anymore, which honestly seems like something the writers think is much, much worse than it is. This would leave Mothwing having to choose another new apprentice, ideally one that actually has a connection, and probably out of the coming batch of Splashtail siblings somewhere between 5 and 7 months from now. It may be called a starless clan, but I don't think they're going to leave RiverClan with a medicine cat that doesn't have a StarClan connection at the end. It just doesn't seem consistent with the internal morality of this arc, especially not after, spending so much time setting Frostpaw up as a medicine cat. This whole book, Wind, if it had any points at all besides being filler, was that Frostpaw is and should be believed as a medicine cat. She insists that she is one with no second guessing or hesitation, while being questioned all throughout Wind. I really doubt they would do this if she was intended to become the leader in the next book. We could hypothetically also consider her earlier message to look for an unconventional choice, but unfortunately this message was either from her mother in hell or not a real message at all and instead something she dreamed up. It's really unclear, and we haven't seen heads or tails of Curlfeather's evil mom ghost in the most recent book, unfortunately. If we were to assume that she had a change of heart and the message wasn't just an urge to pick Splashtail or actual literal owl nose, we could read that as her pointing directly at Mothwing, which not only makes sense as a choice, but also genuinely fits the qualities implied by Curlfeather saying you have to look beyond the obvious choices. Mothwing could never be an obvious choice as a medicine cat, but this message is entirely likely to just be a silly dream, probably. Who knows? Realized while editing this that it was perfectly reasonable for people to want Froststar to be the leader, but I didn't actually have any reasons as to why they thought it would happen. So I asked my patrons. It came down to 2 things for them. The first is that Mothwing can't get 9 lives, so it has to be Frostpaw, the same process of elimination that led me to Moth. And the other was things Riverstar says to Frostpaw while training her to meditate. Well, and also revealing to her that her boyfriend tried to kill her, and that her mother is evil, and all that other stuff. The first argument is that Mothwing, lacking a connection to StarClan, cannot get 9 lives, but I don't think that this is a necessary component in becoming leader specifically. Even if she's cut herself off from StarClan or StarClan has cut her off, the connection will still be made for the ceremony somehow. I believe that whatever thing happens to a cat, go see my How Many Lives video if you want more information on that, to make it so that they can get 9 lives will probably circumvent any atheist barrier that Mothwing has put up if Frostpaw was to pick her. The books also theorize this arc that StarClan may or may not require a medicine cat as a conduit for the ceremony. Who knows if they're writing it that way or not, but if they are, Frostpaw's presence will probably alleviate any problems. On the subject of things that Riverstar says to Frostpaw, well, he does say a lot to make her out to be special and important, but he also does a whole lot of being a little bit too specific in a few other places. In the prologue of Thunder says, "This wasn't her destiny. She was never meant to be a medicine cat." No, Riverstar's tail twitched. But things have changed. If RiverClan is to survive, it needs a messenger, a powerful messenger. Imagine showing this passage to Goosefeather. Anyway, seemingly, Riverstar needs Frostpaw to do 3 things. 1, he needs Frostpaw to be able to forge a connection with StarClan, which seemingly is done. 2, he needs her to get over her trust problems and learn to rely on other people a little bit. 3, he needs her to fully understand the situation that led to her being almost murdered. And, RiverClan falling apart. Between her visiting him at the moon pool, him visiting her while she's half dead, and her getting visions from him during her training montage at the park, we do get some words of wisdom from Riverstar. Keep going, Frostpaw. There is much left for you to do, and lots for you to learn if you're going to help the clan. You need to become a cat who can save RiverClan, he told her. You need to make a journey. Was this his idea of help? How could she travel now? Can't you see I'm wounded? I can see. But there isn't much time. You must learn and grow. You will discover how to put the clan back together. But first you must learn how to break it. You must trust them to take care of you when you can't take care of yourself. His gaze grew solemn. Meditation can show us things that are difficult to know, he told her. It can stir up powerful emotions. You mustn't let them consume you. RiverClan needs you to stay strong, and that means you must accept help when you need it. He gives her a series of visions and allows her to learn about old RiverClan and lets her know her mom is in hell before sending her on her way and saying she knows everything she needs to know. And I can see how, possibly out of context, these things might imply that she's supposed to be the leader. But I think this isn't the case, considering StarClan's struggle to reach any sort of medicine cat in RiverClan, and one of the first things he says to her, which is, "Can you tell us who our leader should be?" "First we must calm the waters," Riverstar mewed. What did he mean? Won't a new leader calm the waters? It's gone too far, Riverstar mewed. Before any cat can lead the clan, you must smooth the way. He says very specifically here what her role is, and combining that with needing a powerful messenger from before implies the same. I've also heard people say that having a founder of the clan show up just for a little girl's character development has to happen only if she's going to become leader or something similarly important, and I disagree. I think that Cat God should personally get involved in fixing the trust issues of every little girl in the series. So what I'm getting at is process of elimination leaves only Mothwing, unless one of the cats who hasn't done anything gets chosen very randomly, and while we do currently have one sort of random leader in Hairstar, he was made deputy back in Bramblestar's Storm by Vicky. The other legitimate theory that I've seen floating around recently is that Berryheart is going to get a position of power in RiverClan. She is currently the deputy of RiverClan, but I don't see this happening at all, ever. Frostpaw's goal is to restore RiverClan to Riverstar's RiverClan. Berryheart's goals are to ignore StarClan and preserve their whole closed borders thing. I know right now both Berryheart and Splashtail are acting extremely hypocritically for their previous characterization, but that's just shorthand that the team uses to let you know that these people are actually super evil and all they care about is power. Even if Berryheart looked into your eyes and said, actually, I want to do the opposite of everything that I've been doing all arc, it's not that there's any reason to make her deputy when there are all these other cats alive in RiverClan, like with bodies. I guess I've also seen it around that Berryheart's gonna kill Splashtail and then she's going to go get 9 lives as an evil leader, and I just don't think she'll get them if that's the case. Like, I don't think they would even give her the lives. Sure, they gave Broken Star the lives, and they gave Tigerstar the lives, but technically both of these cats were qualified, I guess? Obviously, Tigerstar wasn't actually the deputy of ShadowClan when he became ShadowClan's leader, and he wasn't a ShadowClan cat either, but Splashtail and Berryheart's position in particular just seem like roleplay. So I just don't see it happening, especially after Owlnose wasn't able to get 9 lives. But there you have it. It's Mothwing. I'm pretty darn sure it's Mothwing. If it's not Mothwing, I will say this video is wrong. I'll say, wow, that was a bad video.